So I think for me, although it's a little bit strange sometimes to define things by what they aren't, but I suppose it's relevant to my background is because I was sort of brought up in the evangelical Christian tradition. So I probably always had that slight sense that going somewhere on a Sunday where you sort of sing and worship with other people is something that you expect to do. But I was no longer I realised that the way I saw the world and saw other people and saw some of the big questions wasn't in tune with what I'd had to begin with. So I had a sort of journey of moving away from that, but still probably wanting something. And I had no idea that there was Unitarianism. It was only sort of by chance that when I'd moved to Cheltenham around about 2008, I stumbled on it literally because it's quite central in Cheltenham, and I walked past the hall and thought, oh, that looks quite an interesting thing. And going past the hall probed me to do some looking online, sample some services from elsewhere and so on, before I actually came for the first time. But I suppose I was looking for some sort of spiritual community, but not the one I was used to, if you see what I mean. I mean, I suppose it's partly that you don't have to, for me, it's that you don't have to have this great anxiety about defining exactly what you think or whether what you think is exactly the same as what someone else thinks and believes. You have a space to explore that and to explore it with other people that are interested in these broader questions, but you don't have to be fixated on either internally what you think or whether that's the same as someone else. So it's not dogmatic, but it's not kind of ignoring the big questions of life that you might want to think about either. It's one of the interesting things is the services can be quite different one week to another week, because different people take services. They all have their own style, and there's several people in the congregation who are able to take services, and they all bring something different to it. So it's quite different to if you're used to going to a church where there's a formula and that's the formula that's always followed. So you don't 100% know what you're going to get, but I think that, to me, that's a positive, that you're not simply just sort of going through a ritual. You're sort of given something to think about each time without necessarily knowing what it's going to be when you walk in. Aside from the most directly spiritual aspect of it, there is the aspect of being part of a community and doing things with other people, getting to know those people over time. But there's also, I think if you're the sort of person that all through the week you've been rushing around doing different things, which I am, probably a lot of the other people involved are as well, you do get a chance of some of the stillness and the silence as part of the service to actually reflect in a way that you might not give yourself in your wider routine. Sometimes it's portrayed as sort of a bit of a wishy-washy thing, but actually when you sit down to actually either reflect on some material or even reflect without material and just have the space and the silence, you actually realise how unusual that is for how we now live, because almost all the time there's some sort of background noise, or you're working but also talking to someone, or the TV's on in the background. And so there is a bit of a discipline to keeping that silence. I quite like being able to do that with other people. I suppose I mean, it would partly depend what their interest was and what they'd said to me, but I suppose I'd say, if you want a space where you can explore, like the divine, but also, however you see God, whether that's you see God as something sort of external, whether you see God through the earth, or whether you don't see God at all, but you still want to be part of a group of people that just think about how we should live and what's important. And you want to do that, in a community setting rather than just on your own reading books and going online, then there is a friendly and welcoming space in Cheltenham where you can do that.